Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out RV Daydream. Today we want to talk about the sugar beet harvest and what it meant for one special to us young man. We're going to find out what he has to say.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream.
What happened was our son decided to do the sugar beet harvest, and we got his van all prepped and ready to go. Which we did a complete build series on the van. We'll touch on that a little bit, not very much, but a little bit, as far as the van and the condition that it was in whenever it came back. Yeah, it definitely, he said those roads up there really beat it up. You know, there's a lot of dirty roads, dirt roads, just in general farm type roads where the trucks are always running. It made it pretty dirty afterwards. So let's go ahead and jump into this sit down we had and see what kind of stuff we get to talk about.
A great amount of time. I don't even know how much time. Since September 21st, and now
The van has returned.
oh, I heard his drive shaft clunk too. I know that drive shaft needs replaced. So that's it. 6 hours worth of driving.
8 hours.
8 hours. Oh my, that sucks. Holy cow, look how long your hair is. You let it go. Well, it's probably needed because of how cold it was.
Oh, I've been wanting to do that.
So you glad to be back?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys have been following our channel for a while. You know that our son, this is our son, Buddy, or Michael. If you meet him on the road, it's Michael. He's been converting over to where he's kind of a van dweller more than a home dweller, and has been traveling around in his van for, well, this last stint, basically almost 3 months that he's been out in his van. Not only out in his van, but in a cold climate. It turned cold. It was okay, and then it got cold. For you guys that don't follow us, we did a complete van build series that started off with the initial purchase of his van and taking it out and making it to where it's something that he could live in and travel in. And we kind of documented most of that process. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I'll put a link up here. It'll be a playlist, and just go through and you can check out the van and what we've done. So this was his first work camping experience since we got the van done, and even prior to that. And in this case, he did what everybody does as far as work camping. It seems like at some point they either try to do Amazon or they try to do the sugar beet harvest. Since he just got home last night, we're trying to keep it to where it's still fresh in his mind, and I've purposefully told him today, don't tell me. He's told me a few things, but I'm saying, listen, I want to ask you questions on camera so you guys can basically get this interview straight out, so we can get to what he thinks overall about it. So, to give you an idea, he left here September 21st, which was slightly early for what he needed to be there, which I think he's supposed to be there September 24th. Again, this is 2019. And then his orientation was like the next day. He basically had a 18-hour drive. It's about 1,200 miles to get up there from where we're at in Northeast Ohio. And the weather was good.
Yeah.
There was nothing. He saw some crazy rigs on the way up. They were all heading that way. I shared that in a previous video. Maybe if I can find the photo, I'll put it in this video also. But yeah, it's kind of cool that those guys were doing everything they could to get up there, because essentially the money is really good. Now, to give you guys some kind of an idea about the sugar beet harvest, this is something that happens once a year. If you guys don't know, we don't get our sugar from sugar cane. I mean, we might get a little bit of it, but mainly sugar comes from the sugar beet harvest, or sugar beets, and that's a huge thing. It's such a small window that they have to harvest these things, and it can't be too hot, can't be too cold, can't be too windy. You know, there's a lot of situations that makes it to where you can't actually do the harvest. and I'll bring up one of those other ones, and it can't be too wet, and that's kind of the situation they ran into out there this year. But as far as the sugar beets, they don't need staffing there all year long just for this harvest. So they bring in all these people, offer them jobs from all over the country, and pay really good money for work that's not very labor intensive. You've got to be a body, and you have a job to do, but it's more important that you're there doing it. And it's very critical that they have enough people so they can run their pilers and get the trucks in and do everything that they need to do. So again, being that it's very critical, they want to really, treat the people that are coming in really well and give them campsites to stay in, and pay them really well too. If they've got to work on Sundays, they get paid, like double time. There's a lot of stuff that they, again, try to do to make sure that people want to come back every year so this harvest can happen, because this is their livelihood. I mean, this is the farmer's livelihood to get all this stuff harvested, in this one little window that they have, which usually is about 2 weeks long overall. Now, with that said, because of weather conditions, even back in 2018, they had some issues. It went longer than it should, and a lot of that had to do with snow, I think, last year. But anyways, this year, he decided to go try it out, and he got there on the 24th, I believe. 24th. And I think at that point you said you just stayed outside the campground, or...
Yeah, and it didn't make a difference because everyone else was already there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought they were just seasonal, or they were just like campers.
They all pulled in and got something. So in his van, of course, he's fully self-contained, which they want somebody that has a self-contained vehicle. You got to have a stove, you got to have water, you got to have a toilet. They don't want you going outside. Now, with that said, I think there might have been some laxing of rules. Yeah, there's some lenience. And don't take, that's just a circumstance that happened this year at, this area, this one time. So don't say that's the rule. That might have been the exception. But so once you got there, you just checked into a site. They gave you a site?
I called the city office, the city hall. Actually, I went there too. I think I basically just had to check in, and then basically tell her where I was parked in the, so she could let any other campers know if they're trying to get there when I'm not there or whatever. That's my spot.
Once he got checked in, and they got him his campsite, what'd you think about the campground? But I mean, was it pretty basic? Just
it was, yeah, it's primitive camping. They had a shower house, and it wasn't anything fancy. They didn't even have actually the showers at Gilbert Olson. They didn't even have. It was literally a step-in shower, like you get undressed in the open, and then you slide behind a translucent shower curtain, so anyone could really see you. I mean, there's not enough people there for it to be a problem, but
yeah, if you guys are shy, maybe that might be an issue. Now, as far as they did give you had power hookup.
Yes.
And they the toilets and everything there, were they regular flush toilets? They weren't vault.
Yeah, just regular.
Okay. So then once you got checked in there, after you got actually a few days before your orientation, right?
Yeah, about 2 days.
Kind of tell us before you even get into the orientation part, what's the area like out there? And this is in Halleck, right?
Halleck, yes.
Halleck, North Dakota.
Yeah, where they filmed some of Fargo.
Oh, yeah. So if you ever seen that movie Fargo, this was north of Fargo.
Yeah.
But, they did some filming there, which was kind of cool. So before we get into what this area looks like, I wanted to show you kind of an overview of it on the map here. Few locations that you could work the sugar beet harvest. This is one of the most north locations, if not the most north location that you can work at for American Sugar Crystal. So here we are. You can see here's Canada up here, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and we're going to zoom in and drag you along here. Try to get you a little bit more lined up. And we're getting close. You can see Halleck here. Here's Drayton. This is called the Drayton District. But here's Halleck and here's Humboldt. And again, getting a little bit closer, you can see here's Halleck. And he actually works at the plant that is up this way, Humboldt. Not much there. You can see it's kind of all just farmland in between these two locations, which we're used to that where we live here in Northeast Ohio. We're kind of out in farmland. And this is, of course, like I said, north of Fargo, or we mentioned north of Fargo. And this Two Rivers Golf Club, kind of pay attention to that because that's actually where the campground is. So we're going to go to the satellite view so you can get a little bit better idea. You see how much farmland's all around. And then there's the city of Halleck. You'll see some of the businesses pop up here as we get a little bit closer. Typical, small town. Looks like the high school track or something out here. But getting back to that golf club, the Two Rivers Golf Club, you can see they have a river that comes through here. And here's the campground. This is the campground that he was at. And you can see how close it is to the river, which I'm sure in the summer or when it's not real rainy, it'd probably be a real nice place to stay at. But very, very basic campground. Just standard, just like you'd think. And then he talks a little bit later, we're going to get into it, about him traveling around and being able to cover the city basically on bicycle. So I just wanted to give you a kind of an overview of what this looks like and where he's at. And he's only, again, 20 miles from the Canadian border. There's the line right there. So,
Halleck, I wouldn't say it's a food desert, but they only have like one grocery store and a Dollar Tree, and the rest is gas stations for, I guess, food. Of course, they have some combo gas station fast food thing that they operate on right across from the farmers market. That's what I think, or farmers store, I think is the name of the grocery store. Really small. They have a library. They have, surprisingly, they have like a wine and breakfast restaurant. I don't think they're the same one. They're just really close. They're neighbors. And then right across the street is Revelation Ale, which is an ale works, and they only serve basically their own alcohol, and that's, I guess, the bar of the town next to the other bar, which is like Eagles Club. I forget what it was. It was some sort of brotherhood, fraternal thing, or maybe a Masonic temple.
Oh, the Eagles.
No. Yeah,
the Eagles. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Well, we have that around here somewhere.
But yeah, that and it was open to the public. Of course, your money is good with them.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of those
population 800. So.
Oh, really? 800? Yeah. Oh, so this is a small town. It's kind of funny. That's the way the VFW used to operate. Until they started struggling, then they're like, "Hey, come on in. Did you know somebody in the Army? Sure, come on in, have a drink." So once you got there, as far as hooking up, in your case, you got the van, so you can drive around everywhere. But as far as transportation on bicycle,
yeah, I mostly did that around town, unless I had to. I even got groceries on my bike, but.
So it's
actually I got that was a drain. I got 2 gallons of water on my bike.
Oh, that should have been interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
So as far as you can go in and park your van, and if you're in Halleck,
oh, absolutely,
and you can definitely ride your bike to where you need to go.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, if I was at the campground, it's I don't even know how many mileage or how many blocks. It's probably about 10 blocks away.
Oh, good. So after you've checked in, you kind of got a survey of everywhere. At that point, you've got to do your orientation. And how long is the orientation? You got to drive to your orientation?
Yeah, orientation is in Drayton, North Dakota.
How far is that? About 30 miles?
That's from Halleck. That was 20, I believe, 25 or something like that. Close to that. 25, I think.
How long did the orientation take?
It took about, we had the safety video, which they, en masse, just basically congregate us into this room just so we could all watch at the same time, and then basically sign a form and get a card. And I still have the card. It's has all the hotlines and numbers for everything, and basically your express I guess employment card.
Yeah.
Well, they gave us that at the end of the safety video, and then before that we got our like cash cards and basically went through W-4 tax forms, stuff like that. And then I think that was it. It was probably, I don't want to say within an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Well, Express Employment is the one that actually did the hiring for the Sugarbeet harvest, and the company is American Sugar Crystal.
Yes.
And they're the ones that are actually doing the sugar beet. Now, of course, you could potentially get hired up there by farmers to work the farms, and their part of getting all the sugar beets in the trucks to get them to the location where he was working for American Sugar Crystal. So whenever you guys see people say, oh, I got hired in as a truck driver, that's not necessarily Express Employments that got them the job, and you wouldn't be necessarily working at Sugar Crystal other than to get the product there. So you got to watch that, because I know that was a little bit confusing for me the very first time I heard about the sugar beet harvest, and that was, I don't understand. Some people are driving tractors, some people are living in houses, some people are driving big trucks, and then there's other people that are just working these pilers. You filled out all your information, you've already gone through orientation, and you're back at the campground. At that point, do they tell you to report a certain day, or are you to call in every day, or how does that work then? When do you know you're going to go into work?
Usually they tell you if it's obvious, like the weather is not breaking at all, but or it's broken, it's not raining or snowing or anything, and night shift basically relieve you of duty. The way to know is obviously they'll tell you just hotline, and just to call the hotline every morning, every time you wake up. It could be tonight or today. Humboldt is closed, but we will report for, day shift is a report for duty at 12 a.m. for cleanup or something of that nature. I mean, that happened a few times, I think, and it wasn't necessarily for cleaning. I mean, we probably cleaned about 4 times, and it wasn't absolutely necessary the two other times, but they just wanted to give us money basically, and at least accomplish something, because they knew everyone came up there for the same reason, was to work and get money.
Yeah, there was a struggle that was going on there that we'll get into a little bit more. But normally, I guess what they would have done is said, hey, you need to come to work tomorrow. It's going to be nice weather, that kind of a thing. And you do have a choice of either doing night shift or day shift.
Actually, how it works is, like, hires that happen or that were here last year, like their first year, they switch shifts for the next year. So basically, it cycles them. I think there is a choice. I don't remember having a choice. I was just put on day shift. I mean, I wanted day shift. I wanted to, see it in its fullness, because at night shift it sounded like they got shafted, and they only got about half of what we got, maybe even less, for shifts. But that's neither here nor there.
So ultimately, the job is supposed to, like I say, last about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this situation. So how long were you there until you actually worked your first day?
How long? About a week.
Okay, and the reason that you were there for the week is it because it was weather related? They were waiting.
Rain. It was wet. It was. They couldn't pull the beets out, or it was too. I mean, it was just a slew of things, I imagine. Especially transport. I mean, like I don't know how 30 ton truck. I don't know how much they weigh exactly, but seeing those, like that amount of beets on the ground, I imagine the sellers, the farmers wouldn't be too happy.
Yeah, there's some videos that are online that has nothing to do with our channel or anything, if you guys want to check that out. And it's showing guys that are out there with big, huge tractors pulling their trucks. as
Yeah.
another tractor is filling the truck out in the field.
Yep.
They're harvesting mud. They were just harvesting these muddy beets.
That was near the end of that. Yeah.
Yeah. We watched. I watched a few videos of it because we was trying to keep track of what was going on up there. That brings up something that a lot of times we couldn't necessarily talk to him. We have T-Mobile, and he was having a hard time with T-Mobile and data up there.
Very spotty.
Yeah. T-Mobile, even though on their map it shows that they have great coverage there, 4G coverage, he didn't experience that necessarily in that campground. So we didn't really. So a lot of times we were getting online, just watching YouTube's videos ourselves to try to see what was happening. Now, as far as then working that, you waited a week and then you worked 1 day, 2 days.
It was one day was we came in for 4 and they were going to give us 8. And then the next day we were just supposed to do 10 and we worked the 10. It was a full day and I think night shift came in at the end. And I think we got shut down after that and it basically went right into... I can't remember. I think it was snow at that point. It might have been snow.
There was the other circumstance. You got to realize how close Halleck is to the Canadian border. And this time of year, how transitional wise, we get into snow a lot sooner in that part of the country. So you got there. It was, like I said, the lows were probably in the 40s. You had rain, a pretty decent amount of rain from some of the pictures I think that you had. And then it turned to snow. How much snow did you get?
I mean, I don't want to call it a blizzard, but it was like a blizzard light. It was people were going off the road and like there was people who were stuck in the snow in the campground trying to get to I don't know where where the hell they were going at that time, but probably run up to the bathroom house. They were probably like me. Like, I mean, I didn't have a choice. I decided to walk because I didn't want to unplug my van every time I had to go 3 rows over to the bathhouse. But that was because we were in a refugee kind of situation.
Now, the other thing is there's a lot of people that go up here to the Sugarbeet harvest, and they're expecting to basically start on a certain day and work 15 days or whatever it is, and then be done and have made money all that time,
Yep.
and then leave.
Yep.
And that's the appeal to the Sugarbeet harvest, is that you go up, you do your job, it's real quick, it's fast money, and then you're on your way, and you sneak out of the bad weather, you get to go down south, and you got money in your pocket. However, because of the rain initially, and then the snow, and then that turned back into rain, that wasn't the case here, and there was kind of a mass exodus of people taking off and saying, forget this, I can't do it anymore, which put everybody in a panic up there that needs to have people in place to complete the harvest. So after the snow, which that was the only time it really snowed, wasn't it?
There were blitz, like just low.
Between the snow and the rain, what did you get more of?
It's near the end. It was rain, or no, snow. Snow and sleet, actually.
So,
but
just to give you an idea,
it was like 50-50.
When he says near the end, he left the house here on the 21st, but he got there on September 24th, and he got done with his job assignment up there November 5th. So you can see that he was there the end of September, all of October, and then the first 2 weeks of November. So it definitely stretched out longer than anybody wanted to. And I kind of want to touch on that a little bit, as far as whenever you were at the campground and you were apparently the rain was causing such issues, they had to move you guys around.
Yeah, we had to essentially evacuate. They said there's a 100% chance of this campground flooding. You need to get out of here. And basically, I had a friend, a work friend. He was staying there, and he said that he was staying until then the city came and they basically told him he had to get out.
So we've seen that again. I've seen that on other YouTube videos. they evacuated other campgrounds too that are working the sugar beet harvest, and they moved them into a parking lot somewhere. Did they send you to a parking lot?
God, no. They sent us to Drain Campground, which was 25 miles away from the actual. Actually, it was longer than it was because it was north of us, our site. So it was really, we were driving 60 miles a day there and back.
Which again, they knew, and they tried to help them out, and they basically, when they found out that things weren't going as planned and people were starting to leave, they stepped up, and instead of getting paid the way they normally paid, from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm not right on this.
Yeah.
They pay you straight time for the first 8 hours of a day.
And then double time.
And then time and a half.
Time and a half, yeah.
For hours after that. So if you work a 12-hour day, the first 8 hours you get paid straight time, and then anything after 8 hours that day, regardless of how many hours you worked before or after that day, you get time and a half. Well, when they seen that a lot of people were leaving, and then they're causing to where they have to drive extra and stuff like that, they said, listen, every hour you work is going to be time and a half. And Sunday was still double time.
Yep.
So I think that was great that they stepped up to do that. I mean, they had to, really, because of the people wanting to leave, but I mean, again, they didn't necessarily have to. But they don't. I'm sure they don't want the reputation of, oh man, that sugar beet harvest is a waste. Don't even drive up there and do it. And I think they accomplished that to some extent, but we'll talk about that near the end here. So, working at the sugar beet harvest, what was your job basically when you went in there?
Oh, well, I mean, it's what they show you on the website. It's you're on the ground. I could run through it right now. It's basically you go down to the site. You disperse, like whoever takes the piler and the end, or not end dump, the dirt return, for that side, and then the other person basically handles all the affairs on that side. And
you just work.
There's
one piler.
Yeah, just one piler.
How many people's on the piler?
4. There's the operator. Oh, usually that's technically a full crew. We started out with a full crew where we had 5 on the piler, and there's 2 on each side of the piler, and then 1 operator. But then both actually one guy from both pilers left, so we both had 4 at that point. And we basically had 4 the whole time. We were no one really left after that. I mean, it was just those 2, and ironically they left because of the flooding. Like this is getting too much for me.
Too biblical. Biblical floods. We're out of here.
The one guy was from Maryland. I guess he didn't understand what weather was.
Oh, really? Yeah. Maryland usually gets pretty decent weather up there, at least snow-wise. So as far as you report to the site, you guys get your job assignments or divvy them out, and there's now, let's say, 4 of you. Do you guys rotate your job at all, or?
Yes, there's a relief operator, which I was, and another guy who was also named Mike. There was some political stuff that went on that because I had to switch pilers actually. I won't disclose who and what did what, but it was I don't want to say drama, but it essentially was drama.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. And
so basically, they took me and the other person. They flipped them. I was on piler 2, went to piler 1. That was basically my crew for the rest of my remaining stay with that site, Humboldt site. And I was relief operator for Ricky, and he trained me kind of secondarily because Lori trained me initially. But he was I don't know, he'd probably been working there since like 2012 or something, so he was a little more wet under the gills, I guess, with it. And then Mike was the other operator, like I said, and then there was Kevin, and then that was just me and Mike would either, on a day, we'd rotate, and it was very loose. Like, you know, like someone didn't feel like if like he'd tell me, you know, I can cover it for Ricky, or he can cover. You know, it doesn't matter. It's very loose. Very. We take breaks. I don't want to say freely, but we had it under control to the extent where 3 on the ground was all right.
Some of those pilers we've seen on videos again were underwater, completely underwater. So there was definitely a rush to the point where the farmers, I mean, up until just 2 weeks before this whole thing ended, they only had 20% of their crops harvested. A lot of their crops were still in the field, and it was all because of the weather and how muddy it was, how cold it was. And there was consolations being made to the farmers to allow them to bring in like frozen beets. They never done that before. Again, I seen all this on YouTube. This wasn't something that we discussed, but I mean, it was really interesting to see. I mean, it was kind of like a panic thing going on up there. So let's say everything is smooth, everything's going smoothly. What's the longest shift that you think you would normally work if everything would be fine? Is it a 12-hour shift?
12. Oh yeah, we worked tons of 12-hour shifts. Where
Okay.
It just. I mean, it started to look kind of leery towards the end, and we could foresee that night shift was going to get cut off halfway through. But for the most part, we finished out the 12s, and you know the weather would be. I mean, the trucks would be coming steady either way, and then you notice the shift changes and different people are coming in, people you haven't seen in hours or so.
So, if you're working a 12-hour shift, everything's going really smooth. How many trucks do you think you see come through there?
I think the most we saw was about 649.
In a 12-hour shift.
A 12-hour shift.
Wow, that's a lot of trucks.
Yeah, we did the day before that, and I think the day before that, roughly in the 500s. Might have been wrong.
Wow.
But that was a very like steady day, and it just cycling in and out. I mean, there'd be times where there's like 8 of them on both sides just piled up. I mean, there's a long distance on the concrete slab, you know, that the beets are getting piled on. And the piler's on, of course, and so like 16 trucks are waiting to be dumped, and there's 2 being dumped, or something like that. Just some ridiculous number of trucks that pulls in, and they have to wait because you know the process is only so fast.
So once you get done with your 12-hour shift,
Yeah.
what's your what did you normally do, and did you do what most other people did? What do you see everybody kind of doing?
We usually would get relieved around 7:40ish, 7:50ish maybe, and we'd basically make our way back to the scale house. Everyone, and because night shift would take over, and we'd I don't know, either wait for the clock to run out, or if the time was already there, we'd just clock out, and people would either stay around, talk, and discuss things, or write out forms, you know.
So whenever you left, or whenever you're done with your shift, then you just hop in your van, go back to the campground, or did everybody say, "Hey, let's all go hang out here"? Or
No one ever did that.
oh, really? Really?
No.
I thought there'd be kind of a
No.
So I guess
there's nothing open past 8.
oh,
Nothing.
that's one of those towns.
Dollar store. That's
Oh.
it. Dollar store food. That's literally where everyone would go at the end.
How about at the campground? Was everybody? They kind of was there? I know that you were at 2 different campgrounds.
Oh well, I mean, Halleck really didn't have. I didn't really pay much because there wasn't like a community room to like congregate in. There was just you had to walk around and manually talk to people. I mean, I wasn't really interested in like socializing necessarily, but then yeah. So Halleck was a little different socially, I guess, but some of them didn't actually go to my site, and some of them went to a neighboring site, and
You're talking about another campground.
no. Well, actually, yeah, that, and also the piling site. I think a lot of people left for the site I went to after Humboldt, because there was 5 people and 3 pilers.
Oh wow!
or at least on the ground, or roughly maybe 6 or so.
So, I mean, this is definitely not a typical
No.
sugar beet harvest at all. The way I understand from what I gathered, again, from my information, not from information that he's told me, and he can either tell me one way or the other on this if that's true. The one farmer in particular said, this isn't one of the worst years for the sugar beet harvest. He said this is the worst year for the sugar beet harvest. He flat out said that it was the worst year ever. So did you kind of get the sense of that up there? People saying, "Wow, this just sucks. I can't." And I'm not just talking about the workers, but I'm talking about like
the
other
farmers.
Yeah.
They're. I mean, one guy he put it, and I thought it was funny. He's like, they're just trying to solve the world's problems. Like I remember near the end, like there was, like they were getting pissed off, the farmers. Like he actually, I mean, one thing that was talk of the town for the day was a farmer ran in there with his brand new Chevy truck, just because he flew in there like he had to talk to someone because he was getting his trucks turned down. There was too much mud in them, and I'm like, there's nothing you can really do for that. But there was some. Yeah, there was basically my second foreman, who was a great foreman, he gave me a jacket because he saw I only had like 2 hoodies.
Yeah, because of it going the distance that it did, and he did bring some clothes.
I brought lots of clothes.
He just didn't. I don't think that anybody can really anticipate for your first time how cold it could potentially get.
Yeah,
and. I mean, I know that we would probably overpack, but he's operating in a van, so there's only so much that you can pack in your van, and he didn't want to bring all this extra stuff to find out he didn't need it. Okay, so we took a bit of a break. He got his American Crystal hat on. They all gave him hats, which is kind of cool. That's not a bad one, especially when summer comes around. So some of the guys up there that worked the sugar beet harvest, I mean, they were, as far as I could tell, pretty much from what he's said so far, everybody pretty much was friendly up there. Now, there was some drama that he said about some of you know what, I wouldn't think any differently about that. I know that crap happens because, listen, it kind of reminds me whenever I used to work for a company and we hired truck drivers. Some of the truck drivers that would come on with us, they would flat out say, "Oh, I didn't really want a real job. That's why I became a truck driver." And it's like, truck driving is a real job. Well, I think that a lot of people probably have the attitude of, well, I'm going to go up and just spend my time up here. They're going to give me a campground, and I'm going to make lots of money and leave. And I'm not necessarily going to work and do my job the way I should. And then there's other people that want to get the job done, or they're proud of their work, or it's different cultures going on. So I'm sure that there's people, they're going to be butting heads up there because everybody works differently and everybody's up there for different reasons. And I'd have to say that for the most part, most of the people that are coming up there, their main reason isn't to come up and work, it's to come up and get fast money. So you're going to get all kinds of people that are attracted to fast money that don't necessarily, like I said, want to work hard. So I could see where that'd be a problem. But as far as everybody you interacted with, like all your bosses and farmers and stuff like, they were all friendly, right?
Yeah, I'd say so on the whole. Yeah,
that's good. So once you're into the job and there's numerous delays going on with the rain at this point, and they can't bring you in because of either, like I've seen on YouTube, some of the sites are just totally flooded, or the pilers, I should say. And then in most situations, though, the farmers, their fields are so jacked up, they can't get the sugar beets in, or they're too much mud with them. So what were you doing on those days? I mean, what happened? What I mean, would you guys all get together, go out drinking, or?
No. Well, near the end, yeah, we had me and my buddy Kevin and 3 other people, one of them being a girlfriend, but still, basically went out. And that was the end of the harvest. That was the end of that site. And but no, Hanging out at like the drain. We did have the community room, and that was probably a big
Plus.
big plus and progenitor of socialization, and very floaty. Like people would just come and go at random intervals of the day, and they're either downloading things on their phone to watch in their camper, or they're just watching Netflix, which me and my friend Kevin would basically just like marathon movies all day, and no one seemed to mind. No one seemed to really be interested in watching Netflix or whatever.
So were they? So as far as the job, were they telling you, "Hey, you're not going to be working tomorrow. You're probably not going to work the next day," or?
We kind of figured. Actually, I think they told us at one stretch, I think when it was snowing, that we wouldn't work the whole weekend, and so basically we knew we had the weekend away.
Yeah, that's what I think I would be concerned with if I was working up there.
Yeah.
If I know I'm not going to work the next day,
Yeah.
I've got a whole different mindset of, okay, so I can stay up a little bit later.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
watch
like
some
the-
TV. I can hang out with friends. Maybe we go
Yeah.
uptown to the bar.
Well, actually, I had to deal with one of that where it was very sudden, and it was actually my last day, I think, working, because I left to go to the other site. That was basically what happened. Was I was doing my laundry, assuming we were closed for the day, and then I think I got a call, or I checked the hotline, and no, I got a call, or a text telling, "Hey crew, we're coming in at 12 we're coming in at 12 p.m. Everybody be there, or no, 12:30, 12:30 p.m. Be there, and get ready for a day of piling beats, I guess." And I was in the middle of doing my laundry, so I had to finish up my load, and it wasn't even, I don't even remember if it was all dry or if it just had to dry naturally.
So but normally what you would do is they would give you an answer the night before, or?
They want to know themselves. They'd only know what the hotline says.
Okay.
So even my foreman, they couldn't. I mean, he'd have a little more information, like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to do it tomorrow," or "We're definitely on for tomorrow and for maybe the next day after that." And there'd be times where it was pretty sure that we were going to have a stretch of days. And I think near the end we had, I don't want to exaggerate it, but it seemed like we had about 2 weeks in a row. But not all proper work days. Like, we only had maybe like some 2-hour days, like some cleanup days in between, but we still at least came into work for those days, at least for a time period, not a full 12, but.
So how many days do you think you actually worked for the whole thing? And I know that they threw you hours, so there were some days that you went in just to do something menial, just to for them to be able to pay.
Yeah.
But as far as going in on a consistent basis, you said there was a couple of weeks straight that you worked. So how many days do you think, with all these delays and everything, that you actually had true work to do?
Well, I'm sure you can look at my pay stub, actually, and probably figure that out. But,
what do you think?
Maybe 13.
Okay.
Something like that, maybe 12.
Okay. And as far as then the pay, I mean, how did that work out as far as...
Well, taxation is theft, and
Here we go, Boston Tea Party.
Yeah, they take about 26%. So that's what, $600 out of $2,500. Oh, $1,800. That looks real impressive.
Yeah,
for whatever 12-hour days of pay. I mean, I don't know. I guess I can't complain because they're giving me time and a half, but still.
Well, you get taxed at a higher rate whenever you get overtime,
yes.
And stuff.
But it like my first paycheck was $2,400. Not $2,400, $246. My next one after that was like $1,036. The one after that was about $1,800. That was deducted from the $2,500. I mean, all these are taxed.
Right.
And then the final one, I don't know what I'm getting. I don't know what the it's probably gonna be all right. I'm sure. Overall, I don't know how much I'm getting, but it seems like I might have made a little over 3,000
For the whole thing, $3,000, which that's what everybody kind of says.
Yeah,
That you get $3,000. The thing is in this case, because they had so many delays, it was spread out over that period of time that I said. I mean, that's basically like 2 months. I mean, you went in, you started. I mean, if you count your drive there, which you shouldn't have to necessarily, other than for you, but I'm saying for people in general that are just traveling anyways, you've got the 24th of September, and then you're all the way until November 5th.
yeah.
So there's quite a few weeks that are involved there. To make $3,000 over that amount of time, it's fair. It's an experience. You made money. You still have money left over.
Yeah.
Even with all the gas that was involved and whatever else you had, food, entertainment, which was limited there, but still. So, as far as then you're done, they tell you, hey, we're finished. Thanks a lot. I think there's a bonus that might be involved that they pay.
Yeah.
That I don't know what the bonus. I mean, whenever you're talking bonus, I'm sure they don't have a hard fast rule of what it is. But then at that point, they say, hey, you can stay at the campground for the next few days before you leave, something like that.
48 hours.
48 hours, so 2 days. They get 2 days to get your stuff together, which I'm assuming most people probably go get their laundry done, flush their tanks out if they've got a camper and set up there. And then you depart and you leave, you come back home. Well, you stop and then you come back home. Of course, there was some snow involved here. But the other thing that I want to talk about is the temperatures, how cold it got up there.
Yeah.
When you were up there, he's, again, talking about our van now at this point, or his van, I should say our van, his van that we worked on, it's insulated pretty darn well. We got a lot of insulation in there. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. But even with all that insulation, he had a small little buddy heater that just didn't keep up.
No.
Yeah.
And I had a space heater, and it was like, it heated up the first half of the back of the van, which was the most important, which was like my torso. And the rest of it, like past my knees, or probably my knees, was just, it was like a dark zone. It was just cold as hell.
We kind of got that sense from him in one of the text messages saying, hey, what, you coming home? He's like, yeah, I just want to come home where it's warm. And I mean, it's pretty bad whenever you're saying you want to come back to Northeast Ohio in November because it's warm. So it must be pretty darn cold up there, which we kind of knew already. So after that, you depart, you leave, you come back to the house here. As far as driving wise, because of your situation being in a van, even with people though that might have campers in that, do you think that most of the people are driving 30 to 15 to 30 miles a day or more to get to the site?
Let me think, because there were some, like Humboldt was only 10 miles away, roughly.
Okay, so that would have been a round trip. That's 20 miles.
20 miles a day, yeah. And
it's an easy drive, I'm assuming.
Easy drive, yeah. Just like actually
farmland.
Yeah, farmland. And then when we went to Drayton, it was about, like I said, about half or 3 times that. It felt like easily 3 times that almost.
So you're doing 60 miles a day.
Yes. Round
trip. So you guys may want to be kind of aware of that. It's not one of those things where once they put you in a campsite, the campsites are it's not right there necessarily next to the company, and you're not going to ride your bicycle there for work every day. So it's going to get potentially cold, rainy. It's going to be there. You could be there a long time. You might get evacuated out of there. I mean, there's not a lot to do as far as entertainment wise. You're up there for a job, but still a lot of people are probably thinking of this as kind of an experience and a little vacation, but you got to realize what actually is happening up there, and ultimately you're there to kind of play a little bit of a gamble, to get up there, get fast money and leave and be on your way, or like in this case, worst case scenario, it carried out quite a bit. So with your situation, you were in what they are describing as one of the worst sugar beet harvests ever, and they had all kinds of problems across the board on every level as far as keeping staffing, keeping the plant open because of it being flooded, keeping the campgrounds open because they're flooded, being evacuated for campgrounds, snow, all that stuff. So I guess the big, $1 million question is, would you do it again?
I was asked this about, I don't know how many times about my foreman.
Yeah, they've got to know, and that's kind of why we're doing this. I'm kind of curious what you say.
I can't help but laugh at what the conditions were. Like I like people said, I looked happy most of the time because I just thought it was hilarious how bad it was.
Right.
It was
Oh, you got to.
I mean, I could thrive in that. I could thrive in like the cold and wet and undesirable conditions. Really, I mean, I used to do that at Walmart. I used to pick up wet trash in the rain all day, and I didn't really care. It was whatever. It was better than having to do customer service or check people out who tell you you should be in college and you have a real job. And I'm not doing that. But I mean, like this was a walk in the park. I mean, like, and the best part about it was the people. Easily, like if the people weren't at least worth a damn, I probably would have left at least halfway through. Honestly.
Now you're talking about all the people, like the people around you, or
my foreman, my the scale house ladies, the truckers to an extent. Like they're like plenty of them just gave us candy, and one day we had cookies, and they're just like they're I don't know, just like old people, older.
It's a bunch of grandparents out there handing out stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really wrong them for that, but and then just like the coworkers, just a lot of interesting autodidactic survivalist people who kind of see through the, I don't even want to call it I don't want to say the sham of the American dream, but
right. Yeah, well, you get a lot of that out there. He had brought up a point that I thought was kind of funny, but I already knew because we've kind of experienced that in a couple of different campgrounds. Listen, as far as the people that you're going to be around when you're camping or RVing, especially in situations like this, they are they're not out there for the same reasons everybody else is out there necessarily, and even us, we being kind of really traditional Midwest, having a home, raising kids here, paying our taxes, doing it, having normal jobs, 9-to-5 jobs. At some point, you start thinking out of the box and think about what's going on around you and, how much your life is worth in, trading your time on earth for money. And, how does that, how does life become worth living if you're doing that to a certain extent? Well, there's some people have taken it to more extremes, and they really buck everything, buck society in general. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different way of looking at it. But whenever you get that congregation of those different views and thoughts, I'm sure you're going to get people that again, that's probably one of the dramas that was happening at the Pilar.
Yeah, it was.
But he had said to me, he says, there was kind of a general overall sense in this campground that he was staying at that it was kind of like a shady, kind of mysterious, underlying what's happening, with the world group going on.
Yeah, like fringe group.
So I told him, I said, I kind of relate it to what I would expect if I went to Burning Man. I mean, the people that go to Burning Man, they're just complete different thinkers. And that has a lot to do with Midwest, upbringing versus like California upbringing. Yeah. I mean, it's a whole different think process going on there. But overall, though, yeah, do it again. I mean, it's not saying that let's say you need, let's put yourself in scenarios. It's September of next year.
Yeah.
And you want to go to Arizona and spend the entire winter in the desert. Yeah. But you don't want to go down there broke.
No.
Would you go there to do that, to earn a large chunk of money to take off?
Honestly, 1 month for one month and a half, maybe for 3 months, 4 months, maybe of just free living.
Yeah.
I'd do it easily.
Yeah, that's what I'd figure. So, any final words on what everybody should be aware of as far as the sugar beet harvest is concerned? Your overall, just a few words of, okay, this is what you expected, or this is what happened, or when you go in there, have an open mind, be cautious, whatever. What's the?
I say going with no expectations, and basically, if you're more accustomed to a higher bracket of living, if you're not used to, I don't want to say surviving, but I guess that's a good way of putting it. If you're not used to surviving, if you've been living on pension for a few years or something, like you're older, or maybe you're just a younger person, I don't want to say silver spoon in mouth, but that kind of deal, I think you might fare poorly. But if you're more backwoods kind of
Survivalist,
minimalist, even if you're familiar with manual labor, I guess it's a job you can, I think, just brunt through.
Do you think that you say that because of your living conditions? What if you had our travel trailer there?
Travel trailer?
Yeah. What if the travel trailer was there and that was yours and you lived in it? Would you think the same way about it?
Probably not. I mean, it'd be a little different. I mean,
this is a statement about a van dweller.
Yeah, van dweller. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
Obviously, it's coming from me.
Right. I was just curious. So, as far as now, again, this is his first long-term experience living in the van, work camping.
So yeah, I guess it'd be split on it. I want to be the best. I have my bias towards it, obviously, since I was residing in a van. But I mean, there's people who were living in their car, like their little sedan. They just they took out they pushed the passenger seat forward, and they basically put down the back seats, and it worked as a bed. And I think they took out there's a false cabinet or something for the trunk, and they basically, because they're taller, and they made it work, and they had a dog with them.
Oh my!
and they made it work, I guess. So, like, I can't complain on that front, because it could be way worse. It could be to that level of minimalism, but I'm sure they make it work. So this is just my first experiences, I guess, with the independency of it, and I think.
And your van living experience.
Yeah,
now some of this is, of course, on us. As far as what we've prepared him for, as far as van dwelling. I'll be 100% honest. I thought, without a doubt, that his space heater and or that little buddy, it's called the little buddy, that sits on the propane tank. I thought for sure that would heat you up to the point where you're like, forget this, it's too hot in here. So we already know how to correct that, just the bigger furnace. I mean, you just need a bigger heater in there. That's all there is to it. Yes, he has carbon monoxide detectors, so don't even start typing in the comments. We already know about that. He's covered there, trust me. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool that was your first experience, and it was not I'd have to say that I would enjoy doing that more than anything else, because it's baptism by fire, sort of. You went out and you didn't see sunshines and rainbows and unicorns. You seen a bunch of crap. You've seen mud, you've seen cold, you've seen snow, you've seen delays. The other thing is I know that without him even saying this, because I know the way we prepared him, or he had prepared before he even went out. He had plenty of water. He had food. Everything was laid out as far as inside the van. He laid it all out the way that he wanted. But the other thing that he did was not go out there and show up broke. He didn't go out there with not a dime to his name, because that is something that you can't do.
No.
You cannot just borrow $20 off somebody to get that last 10 miles so you can park your van and think, oh, good, I'm here. Now I'm going to have thousands of dollars here in a short amount of
Yes.
time because you're still needing to pay to live. And I think a lot of people have left because of that. I think that some of them, at least on YouTube that I saw, they were showing up basically thinking that they were going to start rolling in the money, but they wanted instant money. They just wanted it to happen overnight. So as far as your pay, I guess we should touch on that real quick. You can get paid either direct deposit
Direct deposit or a cash card.
or a cash card. And what was the disadvantages of the cash card?
The cash card, you have to. I never figured out. I just do it through the internet, through the website, because I wasn't messing with it anymore after it basically denied all my payments towards gas and just a whole mess of things. Because obviously I don't think I was using it correctly, because you have to go into the gas station and basically tell them
To run it as credit.
run it as credit, or else it will like withhold $100, $200 or something like that. The cash card, you basically had to call in and tell them which state you were using it in, and so it could be accepted, I guess, by the ATMs and whatever.
So definitely do direct deposit.
Yeah, definitely do direct deposit if you can bother with it. There's a certain time period until they cut it off, I think, when you could send your papers in.
Yeah, check the website for it. I'll put a link down below for Express Employments, and you can look at all the information that they have available for that kind of stuff. American Sugar Crystal, I'll put a link down there also, so you can take a look at it. But yeah, that was cool. I still think it's awesome that you went out there. It was your first situation overall, living in the van. For the most part, the van did a decent job.
Yes.
As far as getting out there and housing you and doing everything it was supposed to. Even though when he came home, all his water was frozen. The water was frozen in the jugs and in the toilet in the back. But it was cool that you stuck it out the whole time and dealt with all the worst case scenario for the most part. So the next time, whatever you do the next time, wherever you go, it's going to be a cakewalk, hopefully.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, especially weather-wise. The hard part is with the van living. You're having an issue with, the outside conditions. That's why people work so hard to chase 70-degree weather, so they're always in perfect conditions. So they're not spending money and effort to heat their surroundings or cool their surroundings or deal with too much rain.
I like flexibility.
Yeah, well, you got to see the bending over backwards in this case.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it. We're going to say bye to Buddy, and hopefully that answered questions. If not, you can put your questions down below. We'll try to answer them for you, or maybe we'll tap into Bud and have him give us answers so we can respond to you guys. But that's it. We want to thank you for staying with us this whole time. It's a long video. Big surprise. I always do that. And as always, guys, we hope to see you out there. Bye.